got mine.
They still have the
Although I
NIT or
actually kind of think that maybe I
They
do.
could go to the NIT. There's,
Oh, you know,
there's
I've met quite a few.
I don't know. I don't know everyone.
Yeah.
we got
I'm
the
just
Got some down
bad. I
there
forget.
We got the thumbs up.
talking about a couple things.
Okay, we're about ready.
Oh, I don't have
Yeah.
my person.
Would you like to go?
Yeah, I'm gonna have Christie.
No,
get
I
it here.
have seen some.
One second. First of all, good afternoon and welcome to the March 19th meeting of the Omaha Public Power District's Board of Directors, and also Happy Pi Day. My name is Ann McGuire, and I represent Subdivision 2, and this year I serve as chair of the board. Let me introduce the other board members. Amanda Bodner represents District Subdivision 1. Director and Board Treasurer Tim Gay represents Subdivision 3. Director and Board Secretary Rick Yoder, to my left, represents Subdivision 4. Director and Board Vice Chair Craig Moody, to my left again, represents Subdivision 5. And Janice Mohoff is not here today because she is doing jury duty, and also she may not get here she wouldn't get here anyway because she lives in Ashland. So Janice, hope you're safe. Finally, we have Director Mike Kavanaugh, who represents Subdivision 8. Seated to my immediate left is OPPD President and CEO Tim Burke, and seated to my far right is Mo Hinners, Senior Corporate Governance Specialist, who will act as Assistant Secretary and record the minutes of this meeting. Now let's run through a list of our guidelines for the conduct of the meeting. First and foremost, please silence all electronic devices. This regular board meeting will follow the agenda made available to the public upon entering the meeting. The meeting is streaming live on internet at oppd.com, and our regular board meetings have public comment periods on the agenda. Okay, would you like to have a safety report?
Yes, absolutely. We are in the auditorium on the east side of Energy Plaza. In the event that we need to exit this building, you would exit in the same manner that you came into this room here. We would ask you to probably move through the atrium level, so you don't have to move through the steps. And as you go on the atrium level, we would exit out on the Harney Street side of the building. We would ask you not to use the elevator in case of a fire. There's a fire extinguisher right around this corner on the door to my left. It would be to the right of the folks in the audience. There's also a fire extinguisher in the kitchenette, and there's one down into the teller area down on the customer service ground floor level. If the AD and the first aid kit are one on top of each other, as you would go into the atrium before you would go into the cafeteria, they're on the right-hand side on the brick wall, one on top of each other. Is anybody here certified in the use of an AD or in CPR? So we have a variety of different folks that are capable of that. Rod, would you or your team be able to call 911 in the event that we need it?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Again, don't use the elevator in case of a fire. And if you have a medical condition, please write it down or tell your neighbor. I believe that concludes the safety briefing. Thank you.
Okay. And then can we have roll call?
Bogner,
Here.
Kavanaugh,
Here.
Gay, McGuire,
Here?
Moody,
Here.
Williams,
Here.
Yoder.
Here.
Okay, if I can mention that after we have, today we only have consent items, but I'm going to allow for public, for first the board members to be able to speak if they'd like to talk on any of the consent items. And then the public will do that. And we didn't mention it, but we're going to give you approximately 3 minutes to speak, 3 or more. We're going to give you a little leeway for speaking if you'd like. But if you can keep it to around 3 minutes as far as any public that would like to speak. Okay.
All right, I'm going to read the announcement regarding a public notice of meeting. Notice of the time and place of this meeting was publicized by notifying the area news media, by publicizing same in the Omaha World Herald and outlets, by displaying such notice on the arcade level of Energy Plaza since March 8th, 2019, and by emailing such notice to each of the district's directors on that same date. A copy of the proposed agenda for this meeting has been maintained on a current basis and is readily available for public inspection in the office of the district's corporate secretary. Additionally, a copy of the open meetings law is available for inspection in the public meeting book located in this meeting room. The board consent action items for this meeting are as follows. Agenda item number 5, approval of the February 14th, 2019 board meeting minutes and the March 14th, 2019 agenda. Agenda item number 6, SD 14, Retirement Plan Fund Monitoring Report, Resolution number 6312. Agenda item 7, 161 kilovolt and 345 kV substation steel supports, Resolution number 6313. Agenda item 8, STP Transmission Construction Services, Resolution number 6314. Agenda item 9, Standing Committee Charter Amendment, Resolution number 6315. Agenda item 10, GP 14, Board Travel Policy Refinements, Resolution number 6316.
Okay, do we have any directors that would like to speak on the first, probably not the minutes, but
And do we want a
the,
motion and a second before we get into discussion or not? Do we have to?
I guess we could. I was going to just find out if there was any just general discussion, and then we can go to the motion and second. And is there anyone that wants to pull any of these consent items? I guess is my question. If not, is there any, we can do a motion and a second on all the
Make a
consent
motion to
items.
approve.
Second.
Okay. Is there any other discussion about consent items?
I'd like to comment briefly on the, on item number 6, the Employee Retirement Plan Funding Monitoring Report. We received a detailed report on Tuesday. And in light of, what's been well publicized the last month or so about another public pension here locally that's obviously facing some pretty serious challenges, I feel comfortable that our system is being managed well, it's in good hands, and is performing as well as can be expected, and certainly happy to hear that. That's all.
Any other comments on the retirement plan? Any other comments on any other consent items? Okay, and we have any other comments from the public? Okay, then.
All right,
we have a
if there are
vote.
no corrections, changes, or additions to the consent agenda items, I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items.
Okay, we already did that.
That already?
Wagner,
Yes.
What we were going to do. is
Kavanaugh?
do this first.
Yes.
Gay,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Yoder.
Yes.
Okay, goes there. And then next, we have the president's report.
Very good. So you're going to get a little extended version of the President's Report. A lot of stuff going on here at OPPD and some current issues that we'll talk about. We'll talk about our generation fleet first. So as you see on the screen there, Nebraska City Unit 1 and Unit 2 had typically lower capacity factors for a number of reasons. One, Unit 1 was removed to service on February 22nd as part of its spring outage in preparation for the summer. Nebraska City 2 also has had some outage, about a 3.5-day outage because of a boiler tube leak, and that was repaired and will be back up and running, but it will also be part of a combination outage over the course of the next several weeks here. North Omaha 4 and 5, capacity factor both 64 and 65%. Certainly some outage there, but a lot of it is just the market impacts that are impacting these generating units and the relatively low loads that we're seeing during this time of year. If you go to the next slide, please, on the renewable side. I'm going to get to that in a second here, I think. Maybe I will. Yeah, there we go. For the month of February, renewable energy contributed to 26.6% of OPPD's retail sales, and year-to-date, it's 28.1%. Capacity factor for all renewables, that includes wind, landfill, gas, hydro, was 41.7%, and year-to-date, it was 43.3%. So we continue to see, and yesterday, there was a period of time that we had 61% of the generation being generated at OPPD was from wind, and 2.5 hours later, it was about 8%. So it's that swing this time of year with the weather changes that we see. Go ahead. On the peaking generation side, I'll talk a little bit about that. I'm beginning to add all of our generation into the conversation because I think it's important as we continually begin to think about resiliency of our system. Cass County units produced about 1,540 megawatt hours during the month of February. And some of those units, specifically the peaking units that we use natural gas, we were restricted because of the pipeline impacts due to weather that we were not able to generate, and other generating units, we had to actually use diesel, and we're called on to use diesel for either reliability or stability issues throughout the region, throughout the SPP region. Sarpy County Units 1 through 5 produced about 3,923 megawatt hours during the month of February, and even our Jones Street stations, Units 1 and 2, produced 282 megawatt hours during the month of February. And so we continue to use our peaking facilities, and they are called upon by SPP to make sure that we have the correct balance within the region. If you go to the next slide, on an environmental update, I want to talk about just a couple of different things in here, a lot of words on the screen, but under the maximum achievable control technology rules, really our low emitter status. One of the items that I want to talk about is our Unit 4 at North Omaha is achieving the low emitter status for particulate matter, North Omaha Unit 5 for acid gases, and Nebraska City 1 for particulate matter. And this means that this status is pretty important. It's that we've achieved this by sustaining emissions at less than 50% of the limit for a period of 3 years. So this is a pretty important impact for us. It's part of our commitment on our environmental stewardship, and these units and the management teams are really focused on making sure that we maintain these low emitter status throughout our generating fleet. Other units are in certain phases of, you have to complete 12 quarters in a row to be able to do that, and we're currently working through that as well. In the second bulleted item here, we reviewed an environmental integrity prospect report on coal ash landfills that came out. We found many inconsistencies in this report. It was done by an independent organization in the report, including some false claims of mercury impacts to groundwater at the Nebraska City Station. We continue to be proactive in complying and following the requirements of the EPA's coal combustion residue rule, and will continue to be proactive to make sure that we meet that standard and maintain that environmental sensitivity. I will just share with you, for more than 20 years, we've been performing groundwater monitoring in and around the landfills that we operate here at OPPD. The Nebraska Department of Environmental Quality created a groundwater monitoring program in the 1990s, and the first wells at the existing OPPD landfills were constructed in 1995. OPPD began reporting these results to the Nebraska Department of Environmental Quality in 2001 after the requirements were incorporated into our coal ash landfill permits. And so it's just really important to let you know that we continue to be proactive in the work that we're doing around our ground monitoring and making sure that we continue to maintain that environmental quality throughout our region. We're also doing a variety of different reports around our, what we call our OPPD's fish protection studies. OPPD has been a leader in this really across the industry. There was actually a book written on some of the work that we've done and led in the industry to make sure that we protect fish in our water cooling on the river. And we continue to make strides to make sure that we do things that are, one, technically feasible and have a cost-benefit analysis, and certainly protect fishes across our natural waterways. And so that's just a quick environmental update. I thought we would share kind of what's going on across our region and across the company. The next slide here, there's two items I'm going to talk about. One's on the screen. I don't think you can go to any channel here in Omaha or maybe even the region to hear about what's going on with flooding and rivers and creeks and streams. And so we are seeing some of that certainly on our system. At 6 o'clock yesterday afternoon, on March 13th, OPPD initiated its business continuity plan. It's our level 1, which is we haven't seen any damage to any systems, but we've mobilized our organization to make sure that we're coordinating the efforts to make sure that we protect all critical assets regarding flooding water, whether it would be on the on the Missouri River or any contributories or any backups that may occur across our system. And so our teams have been meeting about every 6 hours, starting at 6 o'clock yesterday. On the 13th, They'll meet at 10 o'clock tonight. They'll meet tomorrow morning. And we have a robust team that's making sure that we're looking at all the risks across the districts, not just on critical assets, but what I would say other critical asset, meaning our employees and our customers as well. We're working great with local facilities, local customers that may be having issues, and certainly FEMA and NEMA as they begin to mobilize and look at a variety of different things. As we look at impacts to our system, we see a peak that could be occurring around the Saturday timeframe. And so our teams have been very busy making sure we're protecting critical infrastructure. We'll continue to give the board the updates that you've been getting over the last 12 hours or whatever, a little less than 12 hours. I think we've given you a couple updates, and we'll continue to do that as we move forward. In the next item, there was a question about us closing our session on enterprise risk, and there are things that we share with the board when we close that session around. Could be critical infrastructure, it could be a number of different things around our enterprise risk. But one of the items we thought what we would share with the public in this regard is kind of our response to what's going on in California, really in light of the wildfires experienced in California and the impacts to a local utility there, an investor-owned utility called Pacific Gas and Electric Company. And we've been asked about our approach to risk management, about what we're doing around our systems. So we've worked very hard to cultivate a risk management culture here at OPPD. We've been recognized by rating agencies and others in the industry for the work that we've done. Very proud of our team of men and women across the district who focus on identifying, managing, and mitigating strategic and operational risks, just as I talked about before as we initiated our business continuity plan regarding the floodwaters that are impacting our region right now. And although OPPD has had catastrophic risks, including winds, straight line winds, tornadoes, ice storms, and floods, but in regards to wildfires, OPPD does not have the same level of wildfire risk that PG&E and other California utilities or others on the West Coast or others in heavily treed but yet desert and dry areas may have. So our climate here in Nebraska is different. We've received precipitation all year around and opposed to Northern California, which typically does not. And as a result, California has really dry fuel sources needed to ignite the massive wildfires that they've been experiencing over the last several years. So the image on the right that you see on this screen, let's make sure it shows up that way, is really a large fire probability map. And what this shares is the percent chance that any source of ignition will grow to 100+ acres. And so the probability of large fires for OPPD's district is effectively zero. And this is really done by the USGS in really identifying the probability of that kind of risk to our system. I think it's important for the public to know that. The other transmission and delivery systems are really foundational to how we serve our customers. Should there be a natural catastrophic related risk of any kind, we have transferred a significant amount of that financial risk through really prudent investment in insurance policies, but also limited our exposure compared to utilities in California. We're much different in the state of Nebraska, and we're certainly proud to live in a state that really has unwavering commitment to public power. And so I think it's really important to understand maybe the difference between an OPPD and a PG&E. And so up on the left of that screen kind of talks about, we're two different kinds of utilities, we're two different kinds of states, and the way that they look at liability claims and tort claims and a number of different activities. Certainly our service territory is significantly different than PG&E at 5,000 square miles for OPPD and 70,000 square miles for PG&E. Certainly we have natural catastrophic events, but certainly not the same that you would see on the West Coast of the United States. And finally, I would just say I'm really proud of the work that we've done around leading risk mitigation across the organization. And that's the presentation that our board received on Tuesday, and that our new board members will have an opportunity to dive deeper in on, I think, over the next week or so, just to give you an idea on exactly how we do that, how we quantify, how we look at risk, and how we begin to mitigate them. So we also have a variety of vegetation management programs, line inspection programs, maintenance programs, energy management management system monitoring that we do, reliability compliance, a reliability compliance steering committee, and a variety of other programs to make sure that we protect the assets that are really owned and we operate on behalf of our customer owners. So I wanted to share that perspective a little bit because that's kind of popped up about, hey, do you guys have the same risk as PG&E, and what are you doing about that, and how do you look at that? So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to do that in the President's report. And then regarding our core values, honoring our community, the Society of Engineers celebrated National Engineers Week in the week of February 18th to the 22nd. We had a guest speaker called Alyssa Gilmore, a UNO Associate Professor of Practice specializing in robotics, electrical circuits, and telecommunication engineering. She came and spoke to not only our Society of Engineers, but any of the other employees that had an interest in the topic that she was going to begin to talk about. And she really talked about the focus about how to encourage students to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and math, which is certainly a commitment that we have across our service territory to be able to do that. On the next slide, that's our annual Marshmallow Challenge. And so this really ties with our Society of Engineers. And so 2019 was really designed to promote problem solving, teamwork, and innovation. It's held annually in conjunction with National Engineers Week, which was February 18th to the 22nd. And it's, again, part of our ongoing commitment on STEM education. So it's open to all fifth graders in our service territory. They have 20 minutes using only dry spaghetti, string, tape, and marshmallow on top. So the winners were announced on February 22nd, and we had several winners. So we had St. Margaret Mary, who earned the first place of the year. They actually had two teams that we put in first place. They broke their school record of 41.5-inch tower, which was 2.75 inches taller than last year. And the school's second team, which isn't pictured in this photo on the screen, built an impressive 38.5-inch tower. So we're going to have to do some recruiting, evidently, at St. Margaret Mary. But also, equally as well, in Weeping Water Elementary School, they earned second place with a 29-inch tower built by Team Mellows. So, and a third place goes to Team Zach at Brownell Talbot with a 28-inch tower. We also gave the Creativity Award, which is shown up here on the bottom right, to Brownell Talbot for creativity. Their creativity of their tower caught the eye of the judges for the most creative construction. So just a great opportunity for us to engage with students. Our Society of Engineers do a great job, as well as all of our other employees, by engaging on the educational side. How we care about each other. This month, the month of February, I'm kind of talking about last month, was really an opportunity for us to celebrate Black History Month. And even though we do that in a month, it's certainly more than just a month focus for us at OPPD to begin to think about. But we had several things that occurred. We had Pursuing Excellence. It was a guest speaker, Richard Webb, who's CEO of the 100 Black Men of Omaha. I'll get the opportunity in April to be the honorary chair of their 100 Black Men Gala to raise money for their programs, and I'm excited to be part of that. We had, as I said before, Alyssa Gilmore from UNO to come and talk about STEM education, and then our OPPD family had the opportunity to experience the African American cuisine from north, south, west, and the Creole coast. And so it's a great opportunity for us to celebrate Black History Month here at OPPD. And lastly, prior to the last month board meeting, we had the opportunity to reimagine and rededicate our Veterans Wall of Honor. And so this is an opportunity for us to really expand that. All the OPPD employees and retirees and board members, by the way, who have served in the military have the opportunity to be on that Wall of Honor, and we're very proud of that. And then what we plan on doing in our other centers is to have those employees at those centers or those facilities or those plants that have served in the military services to be part of that recognition at their own facility as well. That's kind of interesting. We've had some events here at OPPD in the atrium, and I've had people text me about how cool it is to have the Wall of Honor and appreciate appropriate of us recognizing the men and women of OPPD and retirees that have served in the military. And so we did that prior to our last month's board meeting. I appreciate the board being there to support that as well. Heat the streets. Walk for warmth. So this year, it was a cold Saturday, well represented by the OPPD team. We had more than 200 employees and families registered for the event. Certainly, we had a strong contingent there. The Salvation Army provided coffee, hot chocolate, water, as long as it didn't freeze by the end of the race, to keep the participants and volunteers warm and refreshed. Hy-Vee at 50th and Center Streets and Costco helped supply nutritional snacks, and we had a variety of sponsors throughout the community, and even some of our partners that were sponsors of the event. You see a picture of the OPPD family that was there in the picture, and it was a little chilly, but we were well represented, and actually quite a few folks on the senior team were bundled up and had the opportunity to be there. So before I go to the next slide, this is probably fitting. We've put together a little video to talk about what we do in preparation for storms. No different than what we do in preparation for instituting our business continuity program. So I'm just going to run this video, and it's going to talk about how OPPD sees its role in preparing for storms and how we prepare to serve customers. And so if you go to the next slide, we'll let it run.
Hi, my name's Ryan Mayberry. I'm the Center Manager of Elkhorn Service Center. I'm also the Storm Manager of record. Been on the storm team for 16 years now. Handled a lot of storms in my time. So I guess the question on the table is, how do we prepare for storms? And I get that question quite a lot. And my answer when that happens is, we're ready. The real preparation happens well before the storm's forecast. We design our system to accommodate most of the weather in Nebraska. Knowing that 50-mile winds are not unusual for Nebraska, knowing that ice loads of more than 1/2 of an inch is not unusual for Nebraska, and accommodating it is very important. The second thing is maintaining the lines to keep up with their design requirements. So as long as we're out there making sure that the lines are in good shape, that the trees are trimmed, we're in good shape, and makes me feel pretty good when they forecast a storm.
In customer care, when it comes to storms, we are that front line of communication for our customers to report their outages. Our customer service representatives are here for our customers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Whatever our customers need, we're here for them. Every storm's different. We play through a variety of scenarios. We stay tuned into the weather reports. As the crews are out in the field getting their trucks ready and getting ready to hit the streets, we are in the office. We're preparing, making sure that our roles in a storm situation are clear. Depending upon the time that the storm's planned to hit, we'll play out a few different staffing scenarios to make sure that we've got great support here for our customers when they contact us to report their outage. We've had summer storms where there's straight line winds, and within 20 minutes, we've got devastation across our service territory. And so those storms can move very, very quick. In the wintertime, the restoration efforts are a little bit slower. It's harder to get around. Cold weather conditions are different for our staff or our crews. The representatives are really good about helping share that with the customers. So if they're wondering why it's taken so long, they can understand the conditions that the crews are facing in the field.
Having good line technicians that are able to go back and fix the power. So we hire good apprentices, we develop their skills, we develop their loyalty to the company, and their want to of going out and fixing things when they break. So that's really the key to preparation for a storm in my perspective.
OPPD is a 24-hour operation, so the demand on the vehicles and equipment is year-round. Whether it's summer storms, whether it's winter storms, the demands on the equipment are pretty high. Our goal is for OPPD to be able to respond to a storm whenever the need may arise.
We also want to make sure that our systems are ready to handle a lot of traffic in a storm event. And so we will check in with other departments to make sure the systems we use have completed the health checks on those systems and are ready for the volume there.
So OMS is outage management system, and what it does is it looks at all the calls coming in from customers, and it starts to try to predict what's wrong with the system.
Our systems match your phone number to your service address, and will make reporting easier.
So getting those calls and letting OMS predict lets us send the crew to where we believe the trouble's at.
I think technology has been a big enabler for us. We want to make sure that whatever method the customer chooses to report their outage, whether it be on the web, through their smartphone, through the telephone system, or with a live agent, that they've got the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, very cool. And finally, we'll, as we end each of the president's report, I want to talk about an employee that through some of these events have lost their life because of the service that they provide. And so Michael Toms was electrocuted on July 10th, 1974, while working on a transformer near Elmwood, Nebraska. Michael was 29 years old and had been with OPPD for 5 years at the time of his death. He was also a veteran of the United States military and is on our Wall of Honor. And he was survived by his parents, his grandparents, and his sister. So that concludes my president's report.
Well, thank you for having the video. All of our employees helping restore and keep the lights on. That's a great video. Hopefully we'll show it at more places.
Yeah, we will.
Are there any other comments then from the public that would like to speak?
John Pollock, 1412 North 35th Street, Omaha. Well, we're in the midst of our winter to spring transition, and what a transition it's been this year. This was an unusual situation where we got all our precipitation and all our snow melt in a discrete event in 2 days. We're now going to be dealing with the flooding for a while. The good news is that it all happened at once through the whole area, which is quite unusual. So it's going to be done fast. The trouble is it's going to be quite a peak. What I would like to get across about the flood forecast, because I've been involved in doing that in the past, is that these are all based on flow models of how much water is getting into the river and routing it downstream and so forth. Like all modeling, if you have extreme conditions that you haven't necessarily subjected the model to, you've got to be a little bit careful. I've noticed that there are a few streams that have gone above their previous record flow, like the Boyer, Shell Creek. And these are kind of intermediate level, I'd call them large streams or small rivers. So we don't really know how much water is being, whether the water being routed down to the major rivers is quite correct or not. That being said, major flooding on the Elkhorn, apparently not quite as bad on the Platte as we had in 1993 or 1978. I'm saying apparently because I still think that we need to be a little bit careful about that modeling stuff. The Missouri, it looks like we're going to come in for the stretch that we're most concerned about from, say, Blair downstream to Nebraska City at about 2 or 3 feet below the 2011 crest. It'll happen this weekend, but of course the water levels are already high in the Missouri. My concern is that upstream in southeast South Dakota and northwest Iowa, there's an awful lot of water in those areas, and some of that's record too, and that's going to be flowing into the Missouri and contributing to these crests. In addition, on the Niobrara River, the Spencer Dam failed this morning, so there's a possibility that they'll have to release additional water at Gavin's Point. They've already upped that by 10,000 cubic feet per second. So all of that is contributing to the situation. As has been pointed out already, it's coming to a head this weekend, and then we'll be dealing with it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baldwin.
Thanks.
Hello, I'm Kay Karn, 14305 White Deer Lane. Hello, everyone, and thank you for getting my power back on this afternoon. I really appreciated that. I think it was a wind issue, but it was very quick, so thank you. I'm actually here today to represent Omaha Together One Community, an organization of about 25 mostly faith-based congregations and other organizations. We'd like to applaud and thank you for the progress that's been made on integrating renewable energy into OPPD's portfolio. We're very pleased with that, and we hope that you continue to make quick progress on reducing emissions. Secondly, I would like to talk about the rate restructuring that happened in December of 2015. As you may remember, there was a lot of public discussion that happened between Thanksgiving and Christmas that year, and it garnered hundreds of written comments and dozens of in-person speakers at the December board meeting. As you know, the rate structure caused the bills for higher users to go down and the bills for smaller homeowners and apartment dwellers or smaller users to go up. Many of the recently elected board members, as you walked door to door and called voters and constituents and ratepayers, many people brought this up, and I don't think the public is happy with this rate structure. Back in 2015, when I spoke with CFO Edward Easterlin, he told me that OPPD was leading the way on this policy. And we do like it when you lead the way, but I don't think any of the other utilities have quite followed on this particular rate structure. The only one I can see readily is Lincoln, and they did a tier-based fixed fee. When OTOC looked at basic monthly service charges in comparable Midwest cities, the average monthly service fee is $12, $8.50 in Iowa, $9 here, $14 there. So OPPD is quite a bit out of line with our counterparts around the region. OTOC would like to see service charges in line with surrounding cities for many reasons. We are concerned about our low-income communities. We are concerned about our environment. If a tier structure like Lincoln is used, we'd like to see the fee in line with comparable Midwest cities. We hope that when you take a look at the strategic directive, which I believe you will be on competitive rates coming up in the next month or two, we hope that you consider fairness for low-income and low users and the impact of rate structures that have on electricity use and in turn on emissions and our natural environment.
Thank you.
So thank you for considering this.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? If not, that concludes our meeting. I know that MPD charges $25.
28, I think.
28.